22 million black 22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up?
And are not afraid to say it. Welcome back. You are tuned into Black Westchester presents the People Before Show. This is the first edition of the Black Love series. I'm AJ Woodson. We got my partner Damon K. Jones.
What's up? What's up? And
say what's up to the people.
What up? What up? What up? And man, I haven't went live in so long. I forgot how to turn on my whole mic system, man. I'm still feeling lost, man. That's why I have to, God willing, 4 months I'll be retired and I will be making more videos. So I'll be able to be on it a little more and get. But this is the Black Love Sunday, where we talk about black love and loving ourselves.
Yes.
Because we have to get back. Kenyatta, my brother, yes sir. We have to get back into loving ourselves. If we're not, Kathy, how you doing? If we're not paying attention to what's going on in our communities, we're fooling ourselves. And without further ado.
Yeah, and this is important. I just want to say this is important. We cover everything that affects the Black community, and what we don't talk enough about in our community is Black love. So this is the beginning of the Black Love series that will be every fourth Sunday on the People Before Politics radio show. Our guest was here and disappeared in Eve.
Oh, she's back.
Up there she goes. As soon as she gets. So introduce our guest, Damon, our special guest co-host.
This is my homegirl from back in the day since we were younger, and from White Plains, we making it happen, and I love what she's doing out in the community around health and wellness and knowledge of self, and she had reached out to me a while back, but I was busy doing all the things that I try to do at once. But I reached out to her and invited her to our Black History Month Health Series, and I also wanted her to come on the show to talk about loving ourselves, especially from a female point of view. And one thing she said to me, she said, "Oh man, we have to discuss femininity." I said, "Absolutely." I said, let's make it happen, because there's a lot of things that need to be discussed, and we need to have safe places to have these conversations, and people can, take the information that we give and do whatever they want to do with it. Whether they accept it or whether they don't. Our job is to give the information and inspiration for us to live better lives and build Black families and Black communities and be healthy, and have a healthy state of mind. So welcome. She got up there, Nikki Toy.
Yes, I am channeling my father. He is no longer with us, and that is a name that he finally called me. That's my middle name. And so I definitely want to bring him along with me on this journey.
Absolutely. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I feel so honored, and I'm humbled, and I feel very proud to be asked to be the feminine energy aspect of this podcast.
Thank you.
Absolutely, we need that. Tell us a little bit about you. Introduce yourself to the audience. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Nikki. Hi. I am a personal trainer. I have a degree in psychology and social work, so I have about 30 years of counseling, working with young children and families. About 2016, I became a personal trainer, and I kind of fell in love with health and wellness. And the issue that I was having was that I wasn't seeing enough of us in those spaces. And I really wanted to offer health and wellness to the African American community. I also have a catering business with my best friend, Vanessa Williams, and we are called Brown Soul Girls. So I do a multitude of different things, all in the customer service related field, though. That's my heart. I like to give back and help.
So not the Vanessa Williams.
No, not the Vanessa Williams, but the Vanessa Williams.
Because she's from Westchester too, so you gotta clarify that.
She's from White Plains. Vanessa Washington, as she was her maiden name, but now she is Vanessa Williams. But she's still divorced, but she kept her name. So
okay, that's what's up.
Oh, like Tina Turner.
That's right. She earned that last name, honey.
I built this.
Earned that.
I ain't mad at her. I ain't mad at her. But one thing,
So
one
Damon,
thing I wanted.
Oh boy, I can hear that. I can hear that sigh. What we gonna hit me with, Damon?
No, I wanted to start off. Why everybody laughing, man? I wanted to start off because I had to. Jonathan Majors, man. I gotta start off with Jonathan Majors, right? Because we have to, and this is part of self-love. Now, I'm not saying I know everything that went down, and I think that the media is the brother has always, since he's been in entertainment, has represented himself very noble. To fall victim to what they're reporting, I just have to wait and see. But it also goes back to loving yourself and being around positive people that have positive energy. Because this brother's right now is at, and I'm gonna put it up here. Try to see if I can. Oh, that's the background. The brother's been arrested for allegedly assault on his girlfriend in a cab over a text message. That's what they're reporting, that she saw text messages from other women on his phone.
So they're reporting that she saw text messages, and then allegedly they had a verbal or a physical.
Well, it was verbal,
didn't lead to being physical, but he was physical with her, or she was physical with
Supposedly.
him.
Allegedly, he was physical with her. That's
Okay.
why. That's why he got arrested.
So who reported it? She reported it, or the cab driver reported it?
We're not sure.
Okay.
I would think I think she. I don't think the cab driver. I don't know because it's no concrete evidence. From what I read, the spokesperson for Jonathan Majors was like, "Yo, it's all BS. It's not true, and it'll be sorted out." Right. But my whole thing is, I go back to you have to be around people, with that positive energy. I mean, because I saw one interview with him, it was Jimmy Kimmel or something, and he explained why he always walk around. You always see him with a cup, and I thought it was interesting, when he explained it. He said, "This is how I, drink positive energy. You deposit positive energy in the cup." So I was like, wow, man, this brother's like, he's doing it, and even on that level of entertainment, he's really conscious of himself, but that, I guess, that night it wasn't positive energy deposited in that cup, so it's just a reminder, and I'm not saying who's right or wrong, I'm just saying it's just a reminder that we always have to be on spiritual guard against the devil,
Absolutely. But we all are also human too, right? And
Right.
the thing that's so, I always say this, everybody wants celebrity, right? We want to be, celebrities. We want the fame, the fortune, but there's a huge cost with that. And unfortunately, you have to live your life under public eye, right? And any one of us can have a bad day, a bad moment, a bad situation, but because he is a celebrity, he's hot right now, right? They're going to scrutinize it and put him under, all types of light that doesn't necessarily is going to be in his favor. But that's what they do to the black men anyway, right? They always make examples of our men, right? So we have to also be in the position to, like you said, to have some discernment and really wait to see what happens with the story instead of just jumping to conclusions and always feeling like the man was wrong. He was wrong because, we know that physical violence can be both ways, right? He could be defending himself. We don't know that.
Right.
But because he was a man, all people saw was, and here's the thing, I can go and say right now, Damien, you assaulted me. I can go to the police department and there's no proof.
Exactly.
But because I'm a woman, I can go and do that. And the police are going to only want to question you.
Exactly. No, you're absolutely right. And what's crazy about it is, through the last couple of months, from him being in the Marvel movie, and then him being in Creed, he gave an example of masculinity that was him and what's the brother's name, Michael B. Jordan, where some people were saying, "Oh, these guys gay," right? But why would you even say that? Because if you went through the ordeal to make a movie where your body cramped up while you was doing scenes, and you had to get your body to a level of excellence that has never been before, and not just you, but your partner that you was doing it, there's brotherhood there. They accomplished something that hasn't been accomplished in a while with two black actors, young black actors. They accomplished something. They should be proud.
Two black stars.
And they should, and they built a bond. But look at how they question the sexuality and the masculinity of Jonathan Majors and Michael B. Jordan, but they promoted the fucking toxic attitudes of Chris Rock and Will Smith.
Well, that's the narrative that they like to show of us, right? I mean, even if you look at it, how they showed in what was that, King, Woman King?
Mm-hmm.
and how beautiful they showed the Black woman, the fight scenes and the dance scenes and all of that, right? So they always show a different light on us. But then, like you said, when I saw the video shoot, I didn't really particularly care for some of the photos because to me, it didn't show them at their masculine best.
Right, right.
And I know there's always a hidden
Agenda.
agenda with that when it comes to the African American, the Black man versus the Black woman, and how they show our men in the media. And we, once again, we have to look, be more keen to it as Black people, because that's the first thing we see. If you see two Black men showing any type of love, that means that they're gay, because that's not something that they want us to show with each other.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You got it.
And
We
go
got
ahead, AJ.
we got to get to a point. Two things. One, we got to stop with this cancel culture and let the facts come out. I'm not
Right.
saying who's right or who's wrong here, but there have been cases where entertainers have been accused of stuff that they did not do, and even sometimes had to pay a lawsuit just to make it go away, because that was just cheaper than you know what I'm saying, than being dragged out in the press. So I'm not saying that's the case. And secondly, we as the people, the consumer, we have to stop just taking the first thing we see and just sharing it and buying into it without asking any questions, without looking any further. Like, case in point, Cheryl Blue Brownlee Fox said, I read, she reported it, the taxi driver true, and then she recanted. Like, that's the first I'm hearing of that too. And my question, and that's my sister Cheryl, my question for Cheryl is, where did you read that? You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying that because that's what we need to be asking when someone you see that at, did you read that? You know what I'm saying? We need to question the source sometimes, because sometimes it's just some little blog that somebody just wrote something and it got shared and everybody just ran with the story. And that's how we got all these fake news and alternative facts and all this kind of stuff mixed up. So, we ourselves have to ask the questions. So I and put my money where my mouth is. I just wanted to ask Cheryl, where did she read that at, so I can look that up, that part, because I'm just hearing that for the first time, that the cab driver had video proof that it wasn't true, and now she recanted. So I would
we
hope
shall
that,
see.
right.
We shall see. I mean, the spokesperson, made a strong statement that it wasn't true. So
Yes.
Yeah. He has press. He has a press
and
agent that's gonna, minimize that. They're gonna try to do as much damage
right,
control as they can,
And that's their job.
right.
as they
No,
should, right?
absolutely.
As
No.
they
They
should.
should.
It's,
They're getting paid to do that.
Very well to do their job.
They
So
should
they
do it.
should.
They should do it. But that just, I mean, and if she did lie, brother, leave that woman alone.
That part. That
Stay
part.
far away from that
If
woman.
she's playing with your livelihood right now, she could do that. That's a conversation me and my girlfriends have always talked about back in the days when we would be dating guys. And that's one thing I never played. I don't play that. I'm gonna call the police on you. You know what I'm saying? And this is even before we had all this huge police brutality the way we have it now, because there's some things that you just can't come back from.
Yeah, no, you can't. There's look at Al Franklin. He resigned, and then they found out it wasn't true. What was the other guy that was the state New York State Attorney General? He resigned, and then nothing happened with that. Because they
And
put
they
it
were
out
saying that with Mike Tyson, that when the last
there.
was charged, he wasn't really that was a lie. But he served time
Exactly.
for it, right?
Exactly. So man, I just wish the brother the best, because he was leveling up so high, and all his shows that he has done so far, have been success, and you know and like AJ said, we have a cancel culture that will cancel us so quickly, for being human, you know, for being human. And I wouldn't want to see, you know, him lose, everything that's coming for him positively, in this movie business, because the sky is the limit right now. They reported that he had a
I wonder if those.
advertisement with the Army, and they allegedly they pulled their commercials already.
Oh, that's how they do. I always said when Tyler Perry, I think I put a post up when he had bought that land and created his own
Right.
studio. I said we have to pray for him, right? We have to cover him as Black people, because anytime Black people make major moves like that, that can actually change the perspective of how Black people feel about each other. They tend to come after them because
Absolutely.
they want to kind of keep us in our place. So we have to be very aware of things like that.
Absolutely.
I watched
They're
this.
always trying to discredit us. They're always trying to discredit us. You know what I'm saying? Take everything away from us. I always talk about that. Like when I used to watch reality shows when Bob Wives came out, and they still had their houses, the wives. They still had their cars. You know what I'm saying? Their husbands was just in jail. You know what I'm saying? Doing time. And
Exactly.
as a Black person growing up in the 90s, we all know people that went to jail. You work in law enforcement, Damien, you know what it is. But when our men go to jail, we might have to go to jail too. They're gonna take our house, they're gonna take our cars, they're gonna strip us of everything, of the same exact crimes that our husbands do. So you know how they do with us.
Yeah. And it was Paul Mooney had made a joke about how you had what was that show with all the jail show that
The
was on
Wire?
HBO? Yeah, no, the one when everybody was in jail.
Oz.
They, Paul Mooney said, "Hey, look, you got Oz where you got Black and brown people, raping, robbing, stealing, killing, but they're in jail. You got the Sopranos doing the same thing, but they're outside. And it was on the same network, right? So the perceptions we have to fight as Black people, and and that's part of, and that's part of the mental health. It has effect on Black men's mental health. And we don't talk about what Black men face. You know, we love to discuss what Black women face, and we should discuss it. But sometimes what Black men face get lost in the sauce,
I
and
agree. I
and
agree.
they're committing suicide at an alarming rate at this point, and especially Caribbean Black men in the United States. And nobody's talking about that, the high rate of male Caribbean men suicide. And so we have to have these conversations. We have to focus on that.
There was a conference. There was
Hey, Jay.
my bad.
Okay. I thought I was
There was a
rolling through
documentary
sliding Bob
on.
and Weave. Just
Right.
Go ahead.
There was a documentary on Showtime, and I caught it last night. It was on that brother. His name was Chris Jackson, but he became Muslim, an NBA player, Mahmoud Abdul
Right.
Right. He had the Tourette's, and he was what's that dude Curry? He was Steph Curry before Steph Curry. He was that nice back in the 90s, and he did not miss. And he switched his religion to Muslim in the 90s, and then 9/11 happened, and he did the stance before Kaepernick. He was not standing for the flag, and he was doing it for months until one person, this white reporter, noticed it, and then it became this big issue, and this dude's career was canceled. Like, this dude, he played 9 years in the league. He could have been playing like 15 years in the league, probably won a championship or two. The dude was nice. Like, even Shaq, all of them talk about how nice is Steph Curry and them. All of them talk about how nice it is. But what got me, and what the point I make, the Rose, I can't think of one of the players. He was saying, I wish we had supported him more back then. Like, everybody just like left him out there on an island of his own. Like, you know what I'm saying? He was attacked and he had nobody. And unlike Kaepernick, it didn't have no social media. So it wasn't like people that were supporting to put up things and stuff. This is in the 90s. You know what I'm saying? And you have to watch that documentary. It shows a lot about this country and about what we're talking about here. Like,
But I mean, are we surprised at this point? And I mean, we're talking, and this is all encompassing, loving ourselves, right? Because you see black people out here um, trying to speak truth to power, and it literally benefits you to support what they do, but people don't, and I talked, man, big shout out to Kenneth Chamberlain, because for any black man, young black man, to hear audio of his father being called the N-word and being shot and killed, and getting the response that he has gotten from the people in power positions, and him being able to do what he has done. Y'all can't tell me, he has days, that, well, I already know that, but anyone would have days, that their mental stability will be questioned because the amount of stress that you go through just to find justice, man, just to someone to say that they're sorry, so black people face that on different levels every day, and sometimes we don't want to hear from the apologetic white people, right? Sometimes that doesn't help us, right? It really doesn't help us because they really don't understand the psychological warfare that we go through every day, coming outside, being a black woman, being a black man, being a black child. Even we try to elevate our financial stability and move into better neighborhoods, and our children, and we don't even understand that what our children might have to go through when they're one of 6 black kids in a high school.
Absolutely. That's why, I super encourage all Black people to seek some type of mental health therapy, right? Because I know it's something that is taboo in our community, but we have to realize that trauma is already pre-wired in our DNA from slavery. And so we have that already in our DNA, right? And then, if you come from, like myself, I was blessed to come from a very loving family. So that kind of could rewire some of the trauma, but then I'm still a Black woman that has to live in this world every day. I'm raising a Black male every day, right? And so at some point, you do have to come up with different coping mechanisms and tools of how to deal with this as a Black person. Because, for example, I bought a ticket to Kenny's show, but I didn't go and watch it because I know for me, that would trigger me, right? So I have to protect my peace. So this morning though, he did a reel of the audio, and I listened to the audio, and I had to pray after that because it really mentally hurt my heart, because I didn't know that he had actually heard and, was on the phone with his dad, like, Dad, I'm gonna be there in a little while. Just hold on. I'm gonna come and get you. And then the whole reenactment of how they, bum rushed basically his father's apartment and killed him. To have to see that, that's one of the ways of how I protect my peace. Like I tell people, I don't watch a lot of news, right? Because it's programmed to alter your mental state. So I'm big on, and I know we don't want to necessarily go to therapy. So if we're not comfortable with therapy, I try to give other alternatives of natural therapy. So that's why I say exercise and meditation is so important, because, going for walks or, exercising, it helps kind of move all those bad feelings and stress
Right.
and
Right.
out of your body, and it kind of just, puts you in a different mental state. If you're not necessarily comfortable, I know people aren't necessarily comfortable going to a therapist. And nowadays, nobody even has to know. You can do it online. It's very private. Before, you had to go into an office, you had to wait. Now it's not that way, because you'd be surprised just talking, and not necessarily talking because, people say, oh, I have good girlfriends, or I have good, guy friends. Yes, that's important. But you need to have someone that's going to have an objective standpoint sometimes, that doesn't know you, because you have to remember your friends and family are going to still put their spin on it, right? Because they're coming from a place of love.
Right. And protection.
Yep. Or maybe they could, sometimes, like you said, it's important that you have the right circle around you, because you could have people around you that really are envious of you.
Man, listen.
Right.
You're
And
absolutely
so,
right.
you come and they telling you advice, but it's not really good advice, because they don't really want to see you succeed.
Exactly. Exactly. And
Even as a mother,
people
I
think,
pray over my son all the time. Like, white people don't have to have the conversations that we have to have with our children.
right. Exactly. Exactly.
Every Black mother and father has had that conversation with their child once their children start moving out in the world without you, right?
Yes. Yes.
And it's sad, you act like I would tell Nas, mind your manners, know where you're at. You're going to be the only Black person, because we live in Sleepy Hollow. So, pay attention to what you're doing, because if something goes wrong, they're going to blame you. So I'm already kind of like prepping him in a way where I'm sure probably like messed with his subconscious. Like, well, damn, am I being targeted? Why I have to act a certain kind of way? Because white kids can just act any kind of way they want to when they go out, right? We see it all the time.
Right. Absolutely.
Our children don't have that liberty.
Right. That plays into the psyche of young Black men. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that that's the way they want it to be, and we have to have these discussions with our children, and we have to be more, as parents, we have to be more centered ourselves, you know. And I know it's hard, we have with being a single parent. I raised my son, and it's hard. It's
It is.
hard to work, try to have a social life, and raise a young Black man in this world, you know, and it's rough, but sometimes you have to sacrifice. That's what my mother used to tell me all the time. She's like, she didn't get into no relationship until I was almost graduated. You know, after my father passed, because her focus was on me. I didn't do that. My son was young. No, I didn't. But I understand why. I understand why. Even though I didn't do it, but I understood why. I just thought I was better. But then you look back, you're like, I should have just did what my mother did. She was kind of right. But the whole thing is, like, we have to figure out a balance, and we have to understand that times is changing. Social media and have kids killing themselves because of envy of what other people have, and how other people look. And we didn't grow up in that time, because we wasn't comparing. Who do we compare ourselves? Just a little crew that we had, that's it. As long as we all fresh, we good, right? Now you compare someone's timeline is people that you don't know, right? You never seen before, and they're doing all this stuff, and then you're trying to compare to them, and then you find out, oh, this guy, the feds just came in and he was embezzling millions. Yeah, well, that's how he got all that stuff. He wasn't doing anything legal. He was doing everything illegal. He was doing things he wasn't supposed to do. And then you're racking your brain and going into debt with credit cards, trying to compare yourself to him. That's stressful. That's a lot of stress. That's a lot of stress. And I think we should take a social media break once a week, and shut off everything, for a whole day. And I challenge people listening to just do it. Just see if you can do it. I guarantee most of us can't.
Well, my philosophy is I like to give people things in digestible bite size things, because human nature, when we try to go cold turkey, it usually doesn't work for us. So I always suggest, which is something that I do, I try to limit like an hour before I go to bed.
Hmm.
So that way my brain could kind of like, desensitize. I try to read, I'll meditate. At one point, because I was so addicted to my phone, I had to put my phone in the other room.
Really?
And then once I got to that point and I didn't have to do that, then I was able to leave it next to my bed. And then I flip it over too. So that way I'm not, seeing the lights when it goes off, because that's all, stimulating your brain, because we have gotten so addicted to that.
Right, 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 right. I try to just keep the promotions, you know, and I tr- I really try to keep my timeline positive, and I think that's what people should also do. I told I had a conversation with my son a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, yo, man, like, you know, what's on your timeline? What are you watching? What energy are you absorbing
Absolutely.
into yourself? What are you looking at? Are you looking at positive things? Or are you looking at foolish things? You know, and I tell everybody that. You know, what's on your timeline? Even people that want to get in relationship, look at the person's timeline. If you look at the person's timeline, then you know what the person is about. You know what the person is about, because
It's
that's
tricky, right? It's tricky because some people like to, post things that are provocative to get people's attention. But for the most part, you can kind of tell what a person is thinking about. I always look at social media as a way to promote my businesses,
yep.
but
Me
not
too.
my business, right?
Right.
And
Right.
I've been doing something now for about maybe a month now. After I pray, I'm publicly acknowledging God out loud. So I'm putting that on my timeline as well in the morning, and then I start my day. But I've always been a person from a place of positivity, and that's what drew you into me. And that's something I talk about with the feminine energy. Feminine
Right.
energy magnifies things, right? Masculine energy is doer energy, right? Feminine energy is receiving energy. And so when you're operating from that, it kind of magnifies those types of energies and frequencies, and the same
Right.
people that are on the same timeline or the same
Right.
frequency as
Right.
you will
Right.
pick up on that. And I'm a big person with that. And it's interesting that you say that, because, when you start thinking about, I have unfollowed people, I have unfriended people, because if they got too much fuckery on their
Exactly.
line, I don't want to absorb that. Or if you're talking foolishness, yeah, I don't want to see that in the morning. If you're promoting violence against men, women, children, animals, whatever, I don't want to see that. Um, so they kind of just get rid of themselves on their own without them even acknowledging it, right? And then, like you said, you could kind of see. And then it's interesting because when you're around those people, they're talking about the same foolishness or
Right.
doing the same foolishness also too.
I,
Exactly.
I,
Well, hey,
I definitely,
Sheila Garcia said cussing. Well, sometimes I like to throw a cuss out
You gotta,
now
so
well,
and
you
yeah,
put the curse word sometimes gets your point across, right? Sometimes you have
absolutely,
to, you know.
absolutely,
I'm getting
absolutely.
better. I've gotten better.
Yes, you have. Yeah, yeah, actually, yes,
That's a meditation and prayer. I've
yeah,
gotten
yeah,
See, it works. People think it
and,
doesn't work, Damien. It works, right? God is working on
exactly,
us over here, bro, right?
and
exactly.
as proof, just watch. Yeah,
What
as
what you
proof,
say?
just watch the first 50 shows. You'll see a difference in Damon. As proof, watch the first 50 shows. You'll see a big difference
Exactly.
from,
Oh my God.
from now to
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
But I just wanted to say, real quick. I wanted to say I also agree. Yeah, I use social media for promotion. A lot of times I don't even see, because I'm too busy, a lot of the shenanigans on Facebook. Usually it's someone calls you and go, "Did you see what so and so said?" And I'll be like, "Nope." And you have to, like, when people come to you with that, you got to be like, you know what, you have to block that energy. Also, we in Black Westchester, we try to be informative as much as possible and put out the truth. So I did, while y'all were talking, I was looking up the Jonathan Major thing. Jonathan Major's lawyer, and I just want to be clear on this, just while the facts come out, is the one saying that the lady released a statement saying that recanted the situation. But I can't find the statement anywhere. And the lawyer is the one saying it, and his representative is the one that says she released a statement, and the cab driver had a video. So I'm looking at, but I see no, not saying it's not true. I'm just saying I wasn't able to find the statement from her. It's not posted nowhere, and they're not showing the video. So maybe it'll come out. It'll come out in court or something.
If that's his lawyer, and his lawyer made the statement, I would assume that that's the route that is going to take, because he wouldn't make a statement like that.
So I just want, people quote everything that you say. So I just want to be specific. The attorney said that the lady recanted and issued a statement. The attorney said that, and the representative, that there's a video. So I just want to be, so we're putting out the, what it is, like exactly what it is, that's it. Sometimes Damon might throw out a few cuss. Oh yeah. Damon was a, back in the day, sometimes Damon's come a long way. And sometimes they push you to that. Like sometimes.
Sometimes, and people excuse me what I'm about to say, right? But sometimes when you're talking to ninjas, you gotta use the ninja language, right? And sometimes they don't understand it until you use that type of language to them, that they will get it. Because if you want to speak nice, proper, and all that, they don't understand that, right? So when you take it to them in the language of the streets or the like, I'm not, I tell them, don't let all this fool you. I was in the gutter like everybody else, right? Don't get it twisted. Sometimes people forget, right? They forget, and I never let my wife. My wife's like, why they call you that, right? And I'm like, don't worry about it, right? But I mean, like, we're grown ass people now, right? And we attempt to do grown ass things, but the whole thing is, sometimes people take you for granted because you wear bow ties and you wear suits and they think you soft, and you have to take it there. You gotta bring that person that you work so hard, to put in the background, to be more upright. Sometimes that person, I remember Minister Hafiz used to always say, you always have to keep the ninja in your back pocket. You never know when you have to bring him out, because some people just don't get it, and it's unfortunate. There's some people that just don't want to understand no other way, because that's the way they've been brought up. I'm working in jail for 32 years, and I tell cats, either you want me to treat you like a man, or you want me to treat you like an inmate. It's going to be different. It's going to be different how this goes down. But it's your choice. It's your choice which way you want me to treat you. And and trust me, I'll treat you good on either choice that you want. You know what I'm saying? So I would love to take the man route, that we are all men here, and you understand that I just have a job to do. It's not personal. But if you want me to you want me to flip and treat you like an inmate, we could get down like that. But it's your choice. So I think, we have to respond to the energy that we're given. But I always try to put positive energy out wherever I am.
I agree. I think my personal opinion, and goes again to the mental health aspect of it, right? Because when people are vibrating at low vibrations, their mental health is not where it needs to be, because the average person is not just out here acting like that, right? You're not confrontational, you're not aggressive, you're not in defense mode all the time. And so when people are raised in those high risk communities or in high risk environments, you are pre-wired for trauma. So you're always on the guard of, let me get you before you get me type of a mentality. I see it a lot. Vanessa and I have this conversation all the time. We bartend, right? And I waitress. And I usually have more issues with women than I do with men. It's really never the men, because I'm always operating in a feminine energy. So because I'm always in my feminine energy, men are going to be more receptive, because men are going to be drawn to a masculine man is going to be drawn to a feminine energy. But it's usually the women. We're very disrespectful. We're confrontational. We're rude. We don't know how to talk to each other. And I almost feel like I tell Vanessa sometimes, I always feel like they're trying to provoke us to come down to their level to interact with them, because that's what they want. So I usually tend to de-escalate it with my tone, or I'll just walk away, because I'm serving you drinks. I'm not here to put up with your mess for you being just rude for no reason. And I take in consideration alcohol, and things like that also too. But I tend to notice in high risk communities, and I don't want to name any community, but we all know the communities that are high risk communities, because of the violence and the poverty, right, that goes on in those communities. People are a little bit more on edge, and you're not, when you're on edge, you're not going to be pleasant.
Right. I want to piggyback off what Damon was saying. When he says, he tells the inmates, I'll treat you like a man, or I'll treat you like an inmate. That same thing goes for our relationships with men and women. You understand what I'm saying? Like, if you're treating a woman like a queen and she's not acting that, you know what I'm saying? Eventually you're going to give her what she's giving you, and vice versa. The woman's going to give you what you're giving them. You know what I'm saying? So how you want to be treated, you dictate that by how you act sometimes, how you hold and you command yourself. I always say, like, I was telling a friend of mine, I was like, yo, I told her she's an eagle. An eagle soars, fly in the air all by itself. What the eagle doesn't do, it doesn't fly down to the chicken coop and argue with the chicken heads. You understand? It continues flying because the chickens can't go where that eagle is, and it can't do what that eagle does. So the eagle has to bring itself down to their level to have those arguments, and you can just keep soaring. It don't care what them chickens are saying about that eagle. That eagle can't hear that. That eagle keeps soaring, and that's what we have to do. You know what I'm saying? And when you do that, those that are worthy of your love will respect that and act accordingly. Those who don't, they're gonna act accordingly too.
Well, it's easier said than done in Damien's situation, because he works in that environment. So he's in that environment every day. He's coming in from the outside world, happy, got his wife. He's good. He don't know what them inmates is dealing with. So sometimes they just want to, have a bad day, and they want to take it out on him. So sometimes you might have to let him know, like, all right.
Well, sometimes I might come in mad, and they don't
exactly
know what's on my mind, and I tell that all the time, for people, especially when we teach classes, what do you do when you stop by the police, right? You never know what's on the mind of the cop, right? You never know what he's going through, and I'm not, and I'm saying it to protect your life, right? Because, and I use Sandra Bland and as an example, and
horrible,
what happened to her was a tragedy. What happened to her was a tragedy, but guess what? All she had to do was put that damn cigarette out. That's all she had to do. Because see, you got a man that's unstable. She should have saw that he was unstable right from the beginning. You're unstable. If you're stressing me over a cigarette, something's wrong with you, bro. The cigarette's out. The cigarette's out. Can I have my ticket? Can I get out of here? I'm not going to argue with a man with a gun that has the right to take my life about a cigarette. Yeah, I know she had the right to do it, and I get all that. But we don't look at the signs when someone is not mentally right. right? And I'm not telling everybody be a psychiatrist. I'm not telling, but we just have to be more mindful of our surroundings when having a proper understanding of dealing with people. You know, because we don't have to respond to what they give us. We can show a better way. Absolutely.
I guess, but I know how people are going to feel, because here's the thing: police officers are supposed to be trained, right, to handle and de-escalate, right? They're supposed to be the trained professionals. And so that's the issue that a lot of people have with police officers, that they're supposed to be trained how to de-escalate every situation. But it seems like when it comes to Black people, they don't have that control.
Exactly. No, and I'm not taking nothing away with
No,
it.
and I'm not saying what you're saying.
I agree with you. Oh, what happens? Oh, we lost her too now?
Yeah. She'll come back. I guess we having technical difficulties because we look like we lost you a few times too.
Yeah.
She's back. She's back.
Yeah.
But the say, you know, you have to. So police officers are trained to do whatever they need to do to make it home, and we have to think about that as well. Yes, you could be right, but my grandfather said there ain't no sense in being dead right. So sometimes you can fight later via court, CCRB, make a complaint, whatever, but go make it home safe. That's what we have to instill in our people. We need to do what we need to do to make it home safe. Get whatever information you need, the cop's ID, the number of his car, the license, anything, you know what I'm saying? So you can make a complaint later, but you're home safe. You understand what I'm saying? You have to survive the encounter, and we're not taught. The police officers are taught. And the last thing I wanted to say about what you said is funny. Sometimes law enforcement, who are the trained ones, expect us to act that way. Like
no, I get it. I get it. You know what I'm saying? I get it completely. You have to learn how to pick and choose our battles too, right? Because that's right, Sandra. Excuse me, something like that. As soon as the police officers come, I would have probably put my cigarette out. Like I would have got myself so right, because as a Black woman, I've just been instilled from my parents and just taken courses over the years of like, when you see a police officer, you already get yourself in a position of like hands on the wheel. You don't want any outside distractions for him to do anything to you. So I would have already put my cigarette out. But like we said, we can't speak for Sandra and we can't speak for that officer, but we do know that could have been handled totally differently. A learning experience. Yeah. And then also too, she was already like, they were already on her anyway, because she was doing so much Black advocacy, right? Wasn't she doing a lot? So she was already going to be kind of like targeted. You know what I'm saying? We have to be mindful of that.
Right. Kenny says, no matter what we do, and I absolutely agree. But I still, but I still going to say we have to be more mindful when you're pulled over. We have to be more mindful because it's our lives, right?
It is.
We're not the ones. We're not the ones with the gun. And when I teach the class, I said, look, all that, you know, I know my rights and all that. Forget about that, right? Forget about that. Forget about all that, because you're not in a position to talk all that. Put your hands on the steering wheel. Show them your license. You can ask them what you're getting pulled over for. You know, I had a mentally ill state trooper all the way up here. You know, and him and my wife are going back and forth, and she's in uniform, and they're arguing. I'm sitting, and I'm the driver. I'm sitting. I'm like, yo, this is crazy.
Crazy.
Right? This is insane. So I had to de-escalate the
situation
and the state trooper. Like, yo, y'all stop. Just to get away.
Because they're both humans too, on top of that, right? Because here's the thing. We're still all humans, right? And the word that I've been talking about, I've been saying this to Vanessa last year, the word I've been exercising, I give myself a word every year, grace, right? We want to exercise grace. And that's something that, you know, we all have to give each other. But it goes back to what I said, as Black people, we train our kids from little how to interact with the police.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. And I think Every black parent should, and it's not, and I'm telling you, I've been fighting this for a long time, and it's not going to change, and we're still, it's not going to change no time soon, because we fall for the banana in the tailpipe as people from our elected politicians, and especially the black ones. They're like mannequins, they look good, but they do nothing. They do nothing to solve the problem. And that's part of self-love, because if we vote you in there, if you're a black elected official, right? 9 times out of 10, black people voted for you. Go in there and represent their interests, right? And you don't, you know, that's part of self-love. That's part of self-hate. Like it's no compromising. We don't have to tell white politicians to push white agendas, right? We don't have to do it. That's natural. But when we want our black elected officials to do it, they talk about, well, we got to think about everybody. They don't think about everybody when they get there. So we have to so where's the love, right? Things can change with legislation, but there's no love. There's no real love if you got to worry about everybody. No, but we put you in there. You come from a black district. Now, when did you start talking about everybody who hate black people in itself? Well, that's true too, but that's part of love, right? We have to love ourselves. We have to begin to love ourselves and love our communities, even when those that are leaders don't do it. And part of self-love is what? Setting boundaries. We need to start setting boundaries for our leaders. If you don't do this, you won't work.
I want to go back to what you were saying about mental health and seeing somebody for that. We as individuals, as men, we need to be mentally healthy for a healthy relationship. To be what we need to be in a healthy relationship. Women need to be in a healthy relationship. So we you know what I'm saying? We're coming into this. We're both sides not addressing the issues that we have, and we're bringing them into a relationship, and sometimes it's a toxic mix, and that's what happens a little bit. You have to first, like you said, self-love. You have to, like Michael Jackson said, look at the man in the mirror, or the woman in the mirror, and work on yourself. Because if you can't be, if you don't love yourself, you know what I'm saying? No matter what that other person in a relationship does, they can never, you know what I'm saying, like fully make you happy or whatever, because you're not even happy with yourself. You know what I'm saying? And it's something like, and that goes both the men and the women. That's not. I'm a man, so I'm talking about some of the women I dealt with, but that goes both ways, though.
Well, I feel like, this is my opinion, a lot of times people get into relationships to be happy, and you have to be happy with yourself first, right? And that's basically what you're saying, that it all starts with you. And when you know who you are and love yourself, then that sets the tone for everyone else, because you're not responsible for how other people love. Like, I believe Alana Blazan says that, I show up who I am, and then I interact with people and I see how they love me, and then I make a decision on if that love is going to be good for me, because I know what type of love I require.
Absolutely.
I'm not looking for a man to make me happy. I'm already happy. If anything, we can enhance each other's happiness. And I can't say that I always was that person, because I was a young woman, still kind of lost and learning myself. And like Damien said, we can see our parents do examples, but we necessarily don't do what our parents do, right? And so a lot of times, or there have been relationships that I've dated where I necessarily probably wasn't loving myself as much as I should have. And it shows by the type of people that I have dated in the past. But once you know what I'm saying, and you learn and love yourself, and I think a lot of people have a hard time being by themselves. I know for me, Vanessa and I talk about this a lot. Like, it's interesting, right? When a woman is single for a long time, people tend to think that something's wrong with her. Right? Well, why you not? Why you don't have somebody? And I think that's very unfair, right? Because a man could be a bachelor forever. And that's looked at as, notable and awesome and things like that. But when a woman chooses to be single, and we're not even going to touch the whole, not to want to have children, it's very taboo. And, I don't think that's fair, because people should be able to be by themselves and be happy by themselves and really, really be happy, because I see a lot of relationships that people aren't happy. A lot of people are together for financial reasons, right? Because look, this economy is crazy. A lot of people have to stay together because they can't afford to financially live on their own. People stay together for kids, right? Which is not a good thing. People stay together for several different reasons, but it's not necessarily love. And yes, there does take more to a relationship than just love. But if you're in a relationship and you're out here cheating, then what's the point? You know what I'm saying? So I think people should really learn a lot about what they need first before they jump into a relationship, and really look at themselves and work on themselves. And I know that's hard.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like like a lot of people don't want to sit down with themselves. A lot of people keep themselves busy. They're the road, they're all over the place, right?
Yeah, I'm working. Oh, I work all the time, girl. I'm working. I'm doing this. I'm doing that.
It's because they're scared to be with themselves. They're scared They're scared to see what their self might tell them. Because they haven't sat with themselves in a long time. So and I think self-truth is the most enlightening thing that we can have. People don't want that. A lot of people don't want that. They rather be flattered, by this person, that person, by their friends, and told all this, but not told the truth about themselves, or not sit down and have a conversation with themselves and be honest with themselves. People are right. People are scared to be honest. If you can't be honest with yourself, you can't be honest with anybody. I tell people that, well, first you got to be honest with yourself. And you'll see it if someone's honest with themselves. By the way they act, and then by the way they respond. Because if someone loves you and they're going to tell you the truth, from what they see, and if you're not able to accept that truth and internalize it and to see if he's right, then you got some problems going on.
Well, in therapy, we call that defensive ears, right? Because I'm not responsible for how you receive the information, how you process the information that I'm giving you. And so when you talk to people, you'll learn, a lot of times, like you said, and I'm big on this, like feminine energy responds, it doesn't react. Right. And so when you're having a conversation with a person, and you may touch on things that may trigger them, and a person reacts to what you have said to them, that's a flag. But we all have triggers, right? And we have to understand that everybody has their triggers. Everybody has different communication styles. I learned a long time ago from my mother. She has all these sweet Southern sayings, and she would say to me, because I'm a Scorpio woman and I can be very direct at times from what I've been told. And so and when I was younger a lot too, I would just hit you right in the head with stuff, and she would always say to me, Nikki Toy, you get more bees with honey.
Exactly.
And I had to learn how to speak to people, because if I want people to receive what I'm saying to them, right, it has to be in a form of that they can receive it. And if I'm just too direct, or if I'm disrespectful or offensive, but you can tell a person that is really okay with their self, even when you're disrespectful with them, they still know not to react to it, right? Because they know who they are, right?
They know who they are. That's right.
They know who they are. And so a lot of times they'll just kind of sit there and that's me. I'll just kind of like look at you. Like when somebody's crazy with me, I just kind of be like.
Exactly. Exactly.
I
Exactly.
want to
Are
ask
you
both of y'all a
okay?
question. I want to ask both of y'all a question. I'm seeing a lot. There's been a lot of talk about the roles being reversed these days. A lot of women have had to wear the pants, so there's a lot of masculine energy there, and
Mhm.
sometimes they don't know when they do get a man how to let him be a man. And some of our men, through our music and other things, starting to see the masculinity of men come out. And I want y'all to speak about a little bit about that from both your perspectives on the reverse
You go first, Damien. You can
situation.
go
Yeah,
first.
you go first. You go first.
Um, it's interesting because I think I have operated in both. In the beginning, I feel like I've always been feminine, right, from a little girl. And then I was a single mother, and it does kind of put you in a masculine or not. And I never felt like I had to be a dad, because I was never that woman that felt like, I hate when women be like, Happy Father's Day to you, Nikki. I'm like, I'm not a father. I'm just an amazing mom. Because I can never, I'm, first of all, I'm not a man. I can't be a man. I can't do what a man does. I can't teach my son what a man, his father would have taught him. So don't do that to me. I never like that. I've had positions where I was a boss, a supervisor. And so for some reason, society makes women feel like we have to put on this alter ego of being very masculine and tough to get our point across. Being a Black woman in America, we're actually inbred to kind of have some of that masculinity in us, because I know we're the only race that is told, I'm gonna raise you so you could be strong, independent, where you don't need no man.
Exactly.
Where a lot of other races, they don't tell their children that, their daughters that. Like I said, I grew up in a very oxymoron household, because my dad was a Black Panther, but my mom was a Southern, came from very humble beginnings from the South. So they always kind of gave us that balance, where even though my father drilled that in us, but he would tell my mother, make sure you teach them girls how to get in there and cook so they could be a wife, and teach them things that they need to learn how to be so they can take care of a household to be a wife. But then he still wanted my sister and I to be super independent, learn how to do everything on our own, make money. You can do everything a boy can do, that type of energy. And then I see my mother waiting on my dad, hand and foot. And of course, then she passed those traits down to myself. So there's a thin line with it, because when you come home, you have to learn how to turn it off, right? Because you have to be able to let your man be a man. I feel like a lot of us haven't seen that. If you grew up in a single household, where your mother was the provider or your aunties, you're not going to necessarily have a view of what a man says. See, I grew up with a dad. I grew up with a dad that had the final say. So even though my mother ran the household, my father still was the man of the household. I grew up with aunts and uncles. Damien knows my family. So I grew up in a lot of supported by two family households. So I saw where the man was the head of the household, but I still knew my aunts had their role in what they, ran also too, but still everything ran past the man. So I have a certain level of respect for men. And I've dated some men that weren't necessarily the best men either, but I still gave them respect, because that's just how I was raised. And then when I started catching myself, because I noticed, like, my son's senior year, how I even was interacting with him was very masculine. And I was just like, something got to give, because now we're butting heads, me and my son, right? Because I'm talking to him all crazy. I shouldn't be talking to him like that. Especially if I wanted him to do something, it was more like of a dictatorship. And that's how we're raised in the Black community too, right?
Right.
They have this new thing now with this gentle parenting they're talking about, but a lot of us weren't raised that way. We were raised that this is a dictatorship. You do as I say,
That's it.
and that's that.
That's it.
And I have, mixed feelings with that, because, as I became more educated, I kind of was a little bit more liberal with my son in certain areas, because if you don't teach your children how to be critical thinkers, if you just tell them what to do all the time, then they can't critically think for themselves when they're away from you. And I get it too. A lot of times our parents did things to keep us safe. My mother comes from segregation. My dad didn't grow up with that in New York. So my mother, a lot of times she was so strict because she was just scared. And she wanted to protect my sister and I. So being feminine now, and I noticed that when I kind of just changed my energy, Nas changed his energy in the house because I changed my energy in the house.
Absolutely.
And I feel like as Black women, we kind of need to get back to that because we're the number one feminine energy resource, right? But because society has kind of put us in a position where we have to feel like we have to be what a new term, what alpha female, right? Everybody's talking about that high value. But I don't think it's working for us. Even in the world, you see how the world is running right now.
No.
It's too much masculine energy running the world right now, and that's why
Right.
everything is so off balance right now.
Right, and even coming from women, you know, and even women that are in office, you would think, you know, but they act the same. They have the same traits. But you know, that's the thing. You know, when other women, and as a man, I've gone to places and I've saw women in groups, and they look like a whole bunch of dudes, right, in high heels.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
They acting
See
like
his
a bunch of
face?
niggas.
Oh, like their energy, their energy is all.
Yeah, their energy is all fucked
Okay.
up, you know. And it's like, yo, like, wow. And I did a video. About it. I went to a little spot Sunday brunch, and the crazy thing wasn't even no dudes in there, but it was a whole bunch of, and they were like bugging out. And I'm like, no wonder there's no dudes in here, because if I wasn't with my wife, I would have left too. You know, I would have bounced because it's just the energy was crazy, right? And any woman that's watching it, I'm telling you from a man, right? Some of y'all are in groups and y'all look like a bunch of niggas. It's like y'all trying to out nigga the niggas on the other side.
I know
And,
one of my homeboys just said to me like how aggressive we are right now. The women, they're very aggressive.
well, I won't
But
say
not
aggressive.
aggressive in a feminine way, aggressive in a masculine
Yeah,
way.
well, women nowadays are more masculine, and you cannot you're not going to have a relationship with a man that's in his masculine, right? Like when sister says a man, you know, can't handle me. No healthy man wants to handle a woman.
No, he
That's not
doesn't.
that,
And he
that's not
shouldn't have to. He
right.
shouldn't
And
have to handle you.
that's the thing. We've taken this culture, right? We have allowed we have allowed white women, and then whether people like it or not, we have allowed gay women to infiltrate what is feminine. You understand? Because to the point that black man and black women is totally toxic towards each other, right? And it doesn't benefit the black family, the black man and the woman. It doesn't benefit us because we're at the lowest percent of any other ethnic group. So you know, I have conversations with women on my job, and I tell them like this. I said, why is the black woman the only one that gets their education, right? Get a good job, and then talk about they can't find a good man on their level, right? But the reality is in America that Asian women have more education than black women, and their marriage rate is 80%. 80%. So what is the Asian woman doing that she could keep a marriage that the black woman is not? What is the attitude, right? Because it's all about attitude. It's all about attitude. It's all about how our culture has switched from family, right, to this independent thing.
Well, you
That
know
has
that a lot
got
of
us
it
all
is
twisted.
systematic too, though, Damien. You know that a lot of it is systematic, right? We do know that
Well,
that
yeah, no, I
they
do
push
know
that,
that. A
right?
lot of it now is
Their agenda is to separate the black family, right? The man and
absolutely,
woman, and they've been doing it for
absolutely,
years, and we've
absolutely.
allowed them to do it for years. It's in the music. It's in
Absolutely.
everywhere, right? Everybody wants to be a bad bitch, a boss bitch, right? You know what I'm saying? Everything.
Everybody
No,
want to be
no,
everything but a wife. They want to
nobody
be
can tell
everything
me
but a wife,
nothing.
right?
And then, unfortunately, right? Once again, we're not seeing positive relationships of what a wife is, right? Because we got basketball wives, we got all these reality shows of showing what a wife is, and it's not glamorous, right? When you look at really what a wife is, where I grew up, I wanted to be a wife, still want to be a wife,
Right,
even though I'm not married right now. Um,
right.
so it just
When,
depends on but that's what they want to do to the black culture,
well,
you know. Then
exactly.
two, we are 1 out of 4 black men are incarcerated. All right, and then if they are incarcerated, or they're gay, so we don't have that many. We don't have all the men that, even though men still outweigh. I mean, even though women still outweigh men, right? So we kind of are at a disadvantage to a certain degree. I agree with all the statistics and things that you say with that also too.
But my whole thing is even with those that have a man, right? Even with those that have a man, right? The culture have led some women to believe, you know, that the man that they have it's not good enough, right? Because if you could just watch social media, how do you? I want a man that makes $300,000 a year. Well, where you gonna find this dude at? Right? Because the average black man only makes 55 in America. So where you finding the $300,000 dude at? Show me a whole bunch of them. And then you only making 40,000. You want a $300,000 dude. Because we are not living in reality anymore in the black community, especially when it comes to black male and female and female relationships. And to the point that healthy and it's on both sides, because some of these brothers are just as toxic and twisted, right? And so the sisters end up getting with the toxic brothers because healthy men will fall back, right? I'm not gonna deal with that, because why? I understand my purpose and I'm on my mission that's gonna help me with my purpose. I might think you cute, I might think you nice, but you're not for me right now. So what she'll do, because she got the clothes, the cars, and all the things that she think that makes her feminine, right? Those accessories doesn't
Mhm.
make you don't make you feminine, right? It's your nature that makes you feminine. So those women that think their accessories make them feminine, they end up with the low level energy dude that covers up his low energy, his low self-esteem with accessories too, right? And usually she gets hurt by that, then all men are dogs, right? Because each of them are looking for accessories and not looking for lifelong commitments.
Well, I agree with that. And from the other end of it, I feel like a lot of men are, because what's the statistic? 80% of African American women are initiating divorces, right?
Hmm.
We're the ones that are breaking up our families. Then when we do have a family, if we do have one.
And it's
Um,
not for adultery neither.
no, it's a lot of times when I've been doing my research preparing for our conversation today. And so I want to get some facts. So I'm just not spewing things off of my head, right?
Right.
And so a lot of women are leaving because they're bored.
Right. But what you bored
Right?
with? What is out there? A bunch of Sunday brunches?
I
Like
mean,
what
we're
you
just
bored
bored.
with?
I don't know. I mean, I can't speak for these women because I don't have a husband, right?
Right.
And so I don't have a husband, so I'm not speaking for it. But that's just what the statistics are showing right now.
Right. But
That
what is like
they're
marriage?
not happy. I guess they're saying they're not. They're not happy.
Well, that's
They're
what
not.
but that has
That's
nothing a
what
lot
it
of times.
boils down to. That they're when they're saying they're bored, but it really says they're not being happy. But what I'm learning is that, and what I'm seeing in a lot of relationships, because I'm a good observer, and by being a bartender, people talk to you all the time, right? And alcohol, what they say, people just talk, right, when they're drunk. And so a lot of times, because women, right, Black women, we're killing it right now. We are more successful than our Black males. We're more educated. We're like new business owners. We're out here doing homeowners. You name it, a Black woman is doing it right now. And so we're used to kind of a certain lifestyle that we've provided for ourselves. And I guess and people don't realize there's seasons in relationships, right? And so there's going to be, you're married, Damien. You know how it goes. You have to be able to still love your partner even when you don't like your partner,
Exactly.
right?
Absolutely.
And so a lot of people that we hit a bad season, right? Because we want the wedding, we want this over the top glamorous wedding and all this and that, but the marriage is what the marriage is, right? And then when you have a bad season, it's like, oh, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore because I'm not happy. But you don't realize that this is just a season. You may not be happy right now, but you may be happy next year or the year after that. Like, I've been doing my research. There's some couples that they've had a bad season for 5 years. Right? When you look at those couples that have been married for 30, 40, 50 years, sometimes they say 10 years, it was bad. It was a bad 10 years. And I know for me, I don't know if I'm built for 10 years of bad 10 years.
Look,
right.
We have to understand, like happiness is an inside job.
Yeah, it is.
It's an inside job. And a lot of times you make those choices, just like one sister that video went viral, that she left her man and she realized it was her. It wasn't even him. It was her. And if she could do everything over, she would have stayed married to the guy. But at the end of the day, we like to put off our insecurities and our problems on other people.
Mm-hmm.
And the first person that gets the blame is your significant other, because that's the easiest target that you could give for your own bullshit.
You're right.
And so you'll put it on the other person
instead of working on yourself.
And to the point that you'll start psyching your mind out that everything is that person's fault.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So then you put yourself in a situation. Then ultimately, male or female, you put yourself in a situation and you go out and you do things that you ain't supposed to do. And now the relationship is over, and then when you have that time that you sit by yourself and you talk to yourself.
That's key right there.
Realize it was me. It wasn't him or it wasn't her. It was me. And now you fucked up a whole 20, 15, 20 years of marriage, right? Because you didn't want to look in the mirror and address your insecurities and your low self-esteem, and your narcissism and everything else that you brought to the table, because you was never healed from the first place when you got into this relationship and you decided to get a marriage. And you ain't pay attention to your vows, but you just wanted accessories to your life, right?
Yep.
So this is the thing that we have to begin to struggle with as Black people in Black love to save Black marriage. But until we have these conversations and until male and female, I'm just not saying female, I say men too, because we be on the bullshit too.
Absolutely, because and that's what I was saying. Men know how to F it up, but they don't know how to fix it. They know how to mess it up, but they don't know how to fix it.
No, they don't know. They don't know how to fix it, right? Because
and then they just abort.
We're not taught. We're not taught. How we're at damn near. I'm almost 60 years old, and I can look back 2 or 3 generations where young Black men and young Black women have grown up in single parent households who've never seen a man and a woman together in a loving marriage. They don't. What's the example? The Cosby Show. That's people can know the Cosby Show, right? That's the example. And then they made him to be some kind of freaky deek old man. So now they destroyed the visions of people that even grew up like that, of how a black family should be. How do you know how to love a man if you never saw a man and a woman actually in love and work through ups
You're
and
right.
downs and how do you do it? We don't know how to do it as black people
No,
because
you're right.
we don't see it.
See, that's
You don't.
that's
Like I said, I was blessed. I was very blessed, and I used my family as example to see, not all relationships didn't work, but I still was able to see that, men and women in a relationship, through thick and thin. My grandparents were married almost 75 years. They reached their 75th anniversary, and then my grandfather passed. I come from two family households, aunts and uncles, and that's the thing that's so weird. But, I was married to my son's father, but it didn't work.
Right.
But a lot of people have never seen that. A lot of people have not seen that, so they don't know. They don't know. And the first example of when things happen, they abort ship, right?
Right. Exactly.
I wanted to add something real quick. It reminded me seeing it, and the people will say this is another generation. No, it was Isaac Davis and Ruby D. And they were often asked what was the secret to longevity in marriage. And they said it was in going through the trials and tribulations, but together, that made them stronger. They had all kinds of the drama. They both in entertainment, so you can just imagine. They went through all those things, but then they decided to go through it together. And they you know what I'm saying? And it was in going through it together, what you saw when they were older, how that bond was in them going through it together. And I want to answer Kenny Chamberlain's question. He said, so based on the stats that Nikki quoted, what is the purpose of getting married when people don't value vows anymore? And I was joking recently saying that they should change the vows when people get married from till death do us part until I get bored. Because you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't. It's not.
Well, I don't think people really value the vows. I don't think.
And this is. Right, I want to finish the one thing too before you say, it's good and bad. Nobody's having a good time all the time. Nobody's on top all the time. There are times when your wife is going to be you know what I'm saying, and you're going to have a downtime, and y'all are going to get through it together. There's going to be time. I remember one of my pastors who was a bishop, he died. He said that when he was going through schooling and everything, his wife made all kinds of sacrifices for him. So that and loved him and got him through it and was very supportive. When he got that, and there's nothing he won't do for her. You know what I'm saying? Because there's nothing she could ever ask for that he won't do, because she made the sacrifice so he could. You know what I'm saying? So he's giving that back. Like sometimes there's going to be times where you're going to be down and she's going to be up. Or a team. We don't think of the team thing, and as long as the team is moving forward, no matter who's winning that day and who's losing that day, the team is winning. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know, we don't have that. And as somebody who's been divorced, I did have to look at what my involvement was in the failure of my marriage. That's something we don't do. It's easy for me to tell you everything she didn't do or did to piss me off. Most people don't then tell you, what my fault was, what was my part in, and there was some, I was going through my little midlife crisis and questioning everything. So maybe that wasn't the most masculine and whatever, but most people won't admit that. You understand what I'm saying? And maybe that looked like weakness or whatever, you know what I'm saying, or whatever, because and at some the roles a little bit, and you know what I'm saying, and it was just a brief time, but I've talked to her since, and she was like, now there's nothing we went through that we couldn't have got through. But that's in hindsight, though. You know what I'm saying? We've been divorced longer than we've been married. You know what I'm saying?
But that's with her too. That's with her too. Looking back and reflecting on the moments, right? and and saying, you know what, we could have got through that. If I knew what I knew now, we could have got through that. But we have to, once we get over the ceremony of marriage and the hoopla and all that, I think a lot of people don't realize the work that has to be done, right? And that it's a long term, and you have to be a team. See, a lot of us, what happens is we start putting we start having a B league, right? Which is our friends, our co-workers, or this, or that, right? And then we start relying on the B league instead of relying on the major league team, which is the husband and wife, right? And into moving forward in that, because those are that's the league that count, the husband and wife team. But when the communication with that team breaks down, and the teamwork with that teams break down, and then there's resentment and dislike and all that, we tend to jump on in the B league or the C league, and make it work with that. But it's not going to work, right? You have to go through the ups and downs together. And you have to understand. You have to also understand. You took a vow. The vow. You didn't take the vow to me, right? And I told my wife this. You didn't take the vow to me. You took the vow to God, right? And through God, it reflects on me, right?
Because that's the covenant, right? It's you. The covenant is God and the husband and wife, right? That's the covenant.
You can do whatever you want. But you fucking with him. You ain't fucking with me, right? You're not messing with me. See, because if we look at that to that type of level, but we don't, right?
We don't honor the vows anymore. We don't honor those vows. Like our parents, like when they said for death do us part, and for sickness and health. Like they meant that, right? And when you look at the vibe, when you look at the vows, at some point, one of us is going to get sick, right? There's going to be times where we're going to be wealthy. There's going to be times that we're not going to have any money, right? But people don't really value, though, like you said, as long as it's good, or as Lauryn Hill says, as long as you're stimulating me and I'm stimulating you, everything is all good. And then the minute that I don't feel stimulated anymore, you know what, Damien, this is not working for me. Exactly. I don't want to do this anymore. You're not stimulating me anymore. You're not making me happy anymore. And I'm all for people being happy. I don't want to say that people should stay in a relationship if they're unhappy, because that's not what I'm saying. But happiness is an inside job, and we cannot reiterate that enough. It is not my partner's responsibility to make me happy. It is my responsibility to make Nikki happy. And the key is, and I'm going to reiterate again, like Damien said, when you spend time with yourself and you really dig deep, and trust me, I have been there, guys, and it's very uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good. You're not going to like what you see a lot of times when you realize you're pointing the finger, but really the finger's pointing back at you. But you'll come out better for it, because you have to be, when I show, like I say, I'm manifesting my current husband right now. So all this work that I'm doing on myself, I'm going to be the best version of myself when he appears. And because I'm working on myself, I'm only going to generate that type of energy, and he's going to be the best version of himself when he decides to appear. Because I'm making it about me. It's never about him. It's always about me. Always about me.
I wanted to add one last thing too. When Damon said the B League, now as my brother, when he's going through something, he'll share with me. But what I won't be, and I've told Damon to tell you, I told him, I'm not going to be your divorced friend who does not have a wife that's tell you what you should be doing in your marriage. I listen to you.
I want to ask that question. Do men have those friends like that? I want to ask that question. Do men have friends like that? Because I feel like that's more of a woman thing. Men have friends like that? That'll be like, okay.
Absolutely.
Damon shares with me, but I will tell him.
And I'm sharing.
I'm not going to be.
Right. But the whole thing is.
I'm not going to be the friend to tell you what happens. We have our friends who don't have relationships, don't have successful or healthy relationships,
men,
tell us what we should do in our relationship. And
right,
I'm not going
right.
to ever do that for him.
Men have that. Men, and you should have that, right? You should have, whether they're married or single, you should have more. If you're married, you should have more married. You know, I talk to married men, right? I talk to married men. We do that. But the question is, right? Here's the question. Women do it too. But the whole thing is, do they know? Are they giving you the right advice?
That's right.
Right?
You have to be careful.
You have to go to people that understand.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You're right.
You have
That's
to go
key.
to people understand. You know, AJ is my man, but I also talk to my cousin who is very religious and married. Like, you know, we have these guys. Men just like women have conversations. Men have relationship conversations, but the question is, who's the people in your circle? See, that's the big question. Now, if you got crazy broads in your circle, you're gonna get crazy broads responses, and you're gonna go back to you're gonna go back to your relationship, and you're gonna fuck it up. In the same way with men, right? It's the same. It's really the same. It's about who you have around in your circle. You know, that's gonna. That's like Kim Bright say. It's the company you keep. You know, and if you keep positive company and people, and people that believe in God, or you can have friends that just can't wait for you to come back with some negative stuff. Like, girl, let's go out here. Hey, girl, he think you cute, girl. And the next thing you know, you done fucked up your marriage.
Well, the question I was asking, because I feel like I don't have those kind of friends anymore, because I don't hang with those kind of women anymore. But we all had those friends that, like you said, like, I feel like it's more of a woman thing where, you go to him and complain about your man, and they're like, that's why I'm single, because this, that, and the third, and blah, 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 blah. So I'm wondering, do men have those same type of, like, they be looking for you to be single with them also, too?
Well, I can only speak for myself and speak for the men that I know.
Can I speak as a single?
More men want to be married than women think.
Really?
Absolutely.
Really? Black men?
Yes, there's a lot of, yes, black men want to be married. The problem is chicks is picking the wrong ones. They always pick the wrong ones. The one that want to marry you, that's cater, you think he's a punk. Oh, he's weak. He wants to cater to me. What kind of bullshit is that? I want to chase this motherfucker around and make him love me. That's what y'all do. That's what a lot of sisters do. And and we as men, when we sit back and we watch this, we're like, wow, this is crazy. I've seen young girls with young guys, and this guy is respectful. He's weak. He's weak? What are you talking about? But then they end up with idiot box. And he got all messed up. Mr. Idiot Box. He said, look, he said that happened to a good friend of mine. Yeah, see? And that's the thing. Men.
But it goes back to the key of, if you love yourself, right, then you will not be chasing unemotionally unavailable people, right? But
those are the ones that play you, right?
Yeah, right.
Women get played, right? Because I know what to say, right?
Men get played too.
Right. I know
everybody gets played, right?
Well, right, but see, men get played, and I told a friend of mine, right? We get played when we're thinking with our below head and not our upper head, right? We get, because we're visual. Men are visual, right?
You are.
Yeah, right. Mr. Farrakhan said, the woman can make the most holiest man put down his Bible and look at the woman. So we're visual people, but we have to think beyond that, right? Once we get, and unfortunately, it's always by the time we get in our 50s, right? We say, well, what the hell was I doing? Right? Because if I knew what I knew now and I could go back in time, I would change a lot.
Right.
I think we all would. I think we all would.
But in my understanding, because that's what I was exposed to. So now when you're healthy and you're thinking healthy, you're thinking beyond the physical. Right now, women are focused on the physical, the accessories. You know, the BBL,
Not
the
all.
eyelashes, the weave.
Not all. Not
I'm
all.
saying the majority, right? I'm just saying not all. Not all. But that's what they think a man wants. Men don't want that. Right? A man wants motherfucking peace of mind. If a man wants a woman to speak to his soul,
Yes.
Let me tell you something. If you're able to speak to a man's soul, that man will work for you from sun up and sun down. If you know how to talk to that man. Women talk rough and crazy. You know, I tell my wife sometimes, I'm like, listen,
And disrespectful. Can you go back outside
and hang up Detective Jones and bring Miss Jones back in the house, right?
It's hard sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like too, a lot of, and I'm speaking for other women, men don't like it's an understanding thing with both of us, right? You know, because I know I've been in a relationship, so I know, and it's a lot of it has to do with like you knowing your partner, right? And so I'm gonna give myself for example. So, and I'm gonna use Nas. Before I became a personal trainer, I was in childcare, I was a director, I was teaching, I was doing a bunch of things. And I guess I would come home and I would complain, right? And I love kids, don't get me wrong, but I would come home and I would be complaining sometimes. When I became a personal trainer, I would come home and I would just be so pleasant. And then one day Nasir said to me, Mommy, you're so different now since you became a personal trainer. And I said, why do you say that? And he was like, you don't come home and complain anymore. And I was just like, wow. So Nas was 16 when I became a trainer. So for 16 years, what type of energy was I coming home with and presenting to my family? Right. And then as a woman, right, and my mother always taught me, right, the man is the head, but the woman controls the neck. The woman's the neck, and the neck can turn the head any way she wants to, right? And she always taught me too that the woman sets the tone of the home. And if you're a wise woman, right, being in your feminine energy, you're a wise woman, you pay attention to your man. So the men that I've dated, I know how so when they walk in the door, if I can look at him and already tell that he got the world on his shoulders, I'm gonna give him a moment before I even come at him with my shit, right? But I feel like a lot of times, because we're both just so, like you said, in relationships, we're both just in it, right? And that sometimes we forget. So that's why it's important to have grace in your relationship with your partners. Like how you said to your wife, like, I'm gonna need you to go back out there, baby. And Detective Jones, and she probably just caught herself because she didn't realize it. Because a lot of times we're just coming in, just doing what we're doing, and then she just reacted. And then when you came and said it to her, it was like, okay. And then on top of that, after you're redirected, being able to have grace and then just leave it there and then move forward. Because I know for women, we don't know how to leave shit there, right?
No,
so we don't know. That's our MO, right? Men, y'all are great at that. Like y'all can have an argument with your homeboy and go play basketball. Like nothing never happened on the basketball. I mean, like the argument. Women, we still in our feelings about that.
A week, 2 weeks later,
Did
you just talk? Well, that was like 3 weeks ago. What are you talking about?
Yes, but men have to understand that, we bear life. So our bodies and our minds are way more complicated, or I should say complex. I don't like using that word. We are way more complex. We're more complex. Like I was just breaking down a woman's cycle. Men don't even realize. I just was 53 years old and I found this out last month. Women go through 4 like actual changes in our body a month, right? To prepare for our cycle. I said, no wonder we're like all over the place all the time, because each week our body is going through a different cycle to prepare when we are releasing that egg. I
Right.
don't think men realize that. So on
No.
top of that,
Right.
right, we have all that going on. Then most of us are, have our jobs. We have children. We have to admit that we didn't make the best choices. So now we're single parents out here with a bunch of kids by ourselves, which is another stress factor, trying to figure out how we're going to feed and provide and take care of these children. So a lot of times we don't even realize that we're operating in a level of stress at all times. And we have to be masculine to be able to manage all of that
Oh, it's a
energy.
lot. It's a
And
lot.
we don't realize it. And so when it's time to turn it off, we don't know how to turn it off. So that's important that we have a partner that knows how to help us. So sometimes when we use the word handle, I wouldn't use that word. It's important to have a partner that knows how to help his woman, because just like we're able to read you, you guys should be able to read us also
Oh,
too. And I feel
well,
like a lot of
well,
men
yeah,
don't.
yeah, absolutely. And I
That comes
think it
one
has.
that comes with communication. That comes with
It does.
communication.
But a lot
Right.
of us
Yeah.
aren't good communicators either, right?
Right.
Well, a
Oh,
lot of us aren't good communicators.
And
no,
I
we're
wanna,
not.
we
But
got
see, that's
about
a
15
learn.
minutes.
That's something that.
We got about
That's
15
something.
minutes.
We got
I want to say
15
we got
minutes.
about 15 minutes left. I want to leave on a good note or a positive note or inspirational note. Like,
Okay.
and if we can give examples or things to do to build this black love, it's something we got to work on. You know what I'm saying? Things we can do to attract this black love. We're talking about why we don't have it.
I gotta get my
Like
charger. My phone's about to die. I'm sorry
change
about
it
that. Hold
on a
on a
Okay.
positive
second.
note.
Well, I think I
Yeah.
think first we have to we have to learn the art of healthy communication. Well, first you gotta love yourself. Let's start there, right?
Well,
And
yes, yes.
because everything begins and everything ends with you, right? And then we have to learn how to communicate. We have to have boundaries. We have to set
Yes.
boundaries. A lot of times we don't set boundaries. You know, and then we have to and then we have to know ourselves, men, right? And I say, women, you get in a relationship, make sure that man understands his purpose in life. Make sure he understands his purpose in life, because if he don't understand his purpose and he don't have a mission to execute that purpose, that man's gonna be all over the goddamn place.
I agree. I
You
agree. I
know,
had to learn that. You had to learn that later in life.
yeah, he's gonna be all over. He's gonna and the crazy thing about it is, a lot of times men don't understand their purpose till late in life. You know, they don't stand. They don't. If you lucky to get a man in his 40s that really on his purpose and on his grind, God bless you. Or in his 30s. I'm gonna say in his 30s. I'm gonna say in
Mhm.
his 30s. In his 40s, they should be around there. And if they're not, leave them alone, right? Because you're
But
wasting your time.
Damien, explain what purpose is, because I feel like a lot of people don't even know what purpose is.
We all are here. God put us everybody here for a reason. And I think it's again men having that conversation with themselves and understanding, what they're here for. They're not just, we're not just here to work a 9 to 5, right? We all have a purpose on this planet to add to humanity. What is that? And it takes time, right? It takes time, and your purpose might change. God might change your purpose, but you have to be in tune with yourself for that, right? You
Hmm.
have to. I think a lot of young people see. Kenyatta, I'm in my 50s. You, no- everybody's going to evolve. If
I
you're
agree. I'm still evolving, right?
right, if you're 50,
Hopefully,
right. But
If
if
you're
you're
not
50,
growing, you're dead. That's what they say. If you're not growing, you're
exactly.
dead, right?
If you're 50 and you're still thinking the same way you was at 40, there's a problem. There's a problem. You haven't learned nothing within 10 years, right? We should be evolving. I tell my son every 10 years, the The 20s set you up for your 30s. The 30s set you up for your 40s. The 40s set you up for your 50s. 50s set you up for your 60s. By the time you're in your 60s, God willing, Elijah Muhammad said a man doesn't learn how to live until he's 75.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to leave my women with really trying to tap into their feminine energy. And some of the ways you can do that is through nature, right? And so just going for a walk and really turning off, like no music, no nothing, just connecting with the outside sound of nature. I ground, like now that the weather's going to be getting warm, I go outside at least once a week and just kind of like walk barefoot on the grass and connect to the earth. Taking baths, meditating. Because here's the thing, people think feminine energy is just putting on a makeup and a dress and heels. That's just accessories, as Damon says. That just makes you look good. But feminine energy is something that comes from on the inside, right? I'm big on being just nice to myself. Because if you can start off just being kind and loving to yourself, then it's very easy for you to be kind and loving to other people. And that's what feminine energy also embodies: nurturing energy, soft energy, sensual energy, catering energy. And so I embody those things with myself first. You know, I'm very kind with Nikki. I'm very loving with Nikki. I try to talk to Nikki very lovingly, because words have power and people don't realize that. If you're constantly saying like, oh, I'm so stupid, or oh, I do this, or I do that, I don't do that, that's negative self-talk. And so our body doesn't hear the difference of that. All it hears is a negative self-talk, and then it's going to react to that way. Drinking lots of water. Our bodies are composed of almost 80% of water. Drinking a lot of water helps with just making you feel better. Eating clean food. And, you know I have a soul food business. So I tell people all the time, 80% of the time, I try to eat good, because there's that time that I don't eat good.
Right.
Exercise has been tremendous for me. And when I say, I feel like exercise saved my life, because I was in a really, really bad space after a breakup. And exercise was the place that kind of just kept me going, because that was the one thing I could pull myself together to do, to get up in the morning, was to go and exercise when I couldn't do anything else after I put Niles on the bus and got him ready for school. And it just started from there. And then my body started getting stronger. And then it all works together, right? Mind, body, and spirit. That's how God set our bodies up. So then when my body started feeling better, then my spirit started feeling better. Then my mind started feeling better. And then overall, I just started feeling better. Instead of, eating it away, sexing it away, drinking it away, buying it away, gambling it away, you know what I'm saying? Dancing it away, whatever. You know what I'm saying? We all have our vices, but in the end of the day, those are things that they're not going to make you really feel good. I'm big for, putting on music and just dancing by myself. Right? Loving on myself. Those are things that are tapping into my feminine energy. What's that song say? Dance like nobody's watching. And I'll do that in a minute in my house. Like, I enjoy my own company. Also, I want to share something I do too with people. Just smile at people. And I started doing that when I came back from North Carolina. And it was real interesting, because during COVID, a lot of people know I spent that time with my mom. So in the South, we're just, they have a different lifestyle, right? People are friendlier. They're more hospitality down there. They're slower. And so I brought some of that back with me. And it was interesting. When I first started smiling at people would look at me and be like, who's she smiling at? Like, what's wrong with her? Some people would smile back. Now I just kind of just do it, and you can kind of tell the people that are in the same energy as you, because they'll smile back at you. Some people still look at me like I'm crazy, but I don't care.
No, smiling is
it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good.
You know what's interesting about what you said? I hear people always say, they always talk about, you should put the way that person looked at me, or that person, a lot of times they're feeding off how you're looking at them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're putting something out, you don't even know that you're putting out, and people are responding to that. when you change that energy yourself, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you'll get some of that energy back, and so you get what you put out. Like somebody said, treat your spouse the way you want to be treated. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that has a lot to do. If you don't love yourself, then you can't love nobody else. So you understand what I'm saying? So you love, you know. I think this was a very important conversation, and I'm glad Damon suggested that we do this Black Love series. For all that are watching, this is going to be done every fourth Sunday of the month. We're going to do the Black Love series. We're going to be having these discussions because a lot of times dressing is the first part of the healing. You can't heal. Like, whatever it is, if you don't talk about it, if you don't discuss it, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't address it. You know, sometimes we have to have these conversations, and people need to see us have these conversations. And they need to see men and women having a healthy conversation. Now, you didn't agree with everything we said, and we might not agree with something you said, but this was a very healthy conversation. And we don't see enough of that in our community. Our youth don't see it. We don't see it amongst our peers. And again, sometimes you can't, you know, they say if you see it, you can achieve it. Sometimes if you've never seen it, you don't even know what that looks like. You know what
And
I'm
just
saying?
to piggyback on that, AJ, and that's a taboo in the Black community, right? And we all know it. What goes on in this house stays on in this house. We are big on keeping secrets in the Black community. That is a big, what they say, snitches get stitches, right? That comes from our community, right? And so we have to really be comfortable with talking about things that are uncomfortable.
Right. Absolutely.
And the things that we're talking about are uncomfortable, and they're not socially popular right now, right? And so people are going to be a little uncomfortable, but these are conversations that need to be had, and we need to discuss these things because every other community is progressing but ours.
Right. And you can't have healthy communities without healthy families. You can't have healthy families without healthy Black men and healthy Black women.
Black women, period.
We're not going to have healthy children if we don't have healthy families and healthy Black men and healthy Black women. So we'll never have a healthy Black community. You know what I'm saying? We all have, again, like I said, I got divorced. It hurt. You know what I'm saying? The thing to go to is to blame the person. But I had to look at, I had a role in why we got divorced. At some point, maybe I didn't play my position. It's the full position I was supposed to play or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I had to look, I had to ask those questions. What did I do? You know, how did I fail her? Like, I mean, and sometimes some of the answers I got wasn't stuff I wanted to hear. Like, I mean, you know, when you have them conversations, like when you ask God, in church, they say you ask God to show you, you know, when things need to be changed. You better not ask that question if you're not ready for the answers, because you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Right, you know
well, thank you, gentlemen, for having me on. I feel very honored and pleasured, and I hope people learned from what we just talked about tonight, and I look forward to the next discussion.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes, next month is hold on, what is next month? What's the date?
We should have people write in and send in some topics that they wanted to talk about. I thought we were going to talk about Ciara in that dress with her husband.
I forgot about that. I gotta write. You know what? I gotta write it down. I gotta write things down over the month that we're gonna discuss. But
1,
next
2,
month
3, 4.
we're gonna have
the 23rd is the 4th. The 23rd is the 4th Sunday.
Right?
Yeah, it's the 4th Sunday.
All right, the 23rd, April 23rd, and we're also with us will be next month. She came on when I was doing the plant-based power thing. She came on, and I thought about her to be a guest too, to come on and discuss her journey. And Nikki, you will enjoy her journey. Dr. Charmaine Jenkins. She's a life and reinvention coach. And I know she wrote a book. She was supposed to send me the title of the book, but she didn't send me. She's a good friend of mine. And the first thing she said, I said, I said, yo, I want you on the show. Come on the show. She was like, so we can fight? Because we always, cause we always argue. So we always argue. So, but
I'm always up for a good debate. I wouldn't say you guys are
exactly,
fighting. It's a
exactly.
good
That's the first
debate,
thing she
right?
said. She's like, yo, so we can fight? I'm like, man, come on, man. Come on the show. So she'll be on. I'll probably make the fly tonight so we can circulate it, have her on. But this was a great discussion, and this is what's needed, and we're gonna get into, you know, I, it's gonna be 30 days. It's gonna be enough crazy stuff to go around that we're gonna
I like what she said. We need to set up an email address. Write in suggestions like from the show, things they would like to hear us talk about and discuss. And I want to acknowledge what Brenda Crump said. Brenda Crump said, I would like to take this opportunity to give honor to my late husband, Herman R. Crump Sr., for loving me, our children, being a true provider and head of the household. He truly treated me like a queen indeed, and not just in words. If I never know love like that again, I know what real love is.
Amen.
And
Amen.
we need to hear stuff like that. That's why I wanted
Absolutely.
to make sure I shared that. I didn't want to get off without sharing that. We need
Right.
to physically we need to acknowledge, like we need to celebrate each other. That's first off. That's one thing we don't do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Celebrate each other. Like that's something we don't compliment each other. We don't sell each other. We don't uplift each other, and we need to, especially in relationships, we need to uplift each other and not tear each other down. Now, we need to have real conversations when we need to have real conversations, but we need to learn to uplift each other. If you're only tearing somebody down and tearing somebody down and tearing somebody down, it's hard for them to give you back love. You understand what I'm saying? It's hard for them to give you back what it is that you need. A book that I read like towards the end of my marriage, and I wish I had read it earlier in my marriage, was The Love Languages. We don't all speak the same. We don't all speak and receive love the same way. We don't give and receive love the same way. So the way I give love might be not the way Nikki receives it, but I'm giving you the love the way I know how to give love, and not understanding why you don't receive it. We have to have these conversations. So I have to learn what your love language, you love, receive love, and you have to understand what my love language is, and I might have to articulate that to you. We might have to talk so that you're giving me love where you think that I should receive. It's like if I talk French and you talk Spanish, like, you know what I'm saying? We could want to communicate all we want, but we talk in two different languages. Like it's that way with love too. And that was a powerful book. And I wish that somebody had introduced me that in the beginning of my marriage. Introduce that to us. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, man, don't worry. The book of Black Love is coming out in July. All that is in there. Love, languages, everything. The book of Black Love, baby. We're going to teach people how to love each other right.
Well, from a psychology standpoint, there's also attachment styles. So that'll be something that we could talk about next month, about how people attach in relationships, right? And then there's connections. And then there's different styles of communication, right? And so, you have passive aggressive, you have aggressive passive. Absolutely. So there's a whole bunch of different things. I even had to relearn things about myself. That's why I said the key always goes back to what Damien said. Learning yourself and spending time with yourself. And a lot of us aren't doing that. We're just jumping from one relationship to the next relationship to the next relationship, or we're going to that person thinking they're going to fulfill.
And we're just triggering that dopamine. That's all we're triggering is the dopamine, and we become addicted to that. And that feeling, that new feeling, we just be running around from this person to that person, taking off negative energy, but we don't even know that because we're on that dopamine. We just want to have that high that a new relationship gives, and then once it's gone, we're on to the next person because we're addicted to that. And like some of us don't even know, right, what our love language is, right? What we need. right? Some of us don't even know that anyway. And that's learning ourselves, man. I mean, it takes time, and it takes time, and it takes work, but it also takes somebody that has to be honest that they need to learn it, and some people don't.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you,
Brenda. I want to say in closing, right, I want to say in closing from me, I had to learn to be alone with just myself and God. And now I'm trying to make choices out of love and not loneliness. Like, nobody wants to be alone. A lot of times we make choices out of loneliness. You understand? And those are the wrong choices because we're not comfortable being alone with ourselves or with ourselves and God. You know what I'm saying? So when you can get comfortable enough in your own skin to be alone by yourself, God, then you will learn to make choices out of love and not loneliness. Now, I have lonely moments, but there's some people that I just won't get involved with now because, where I would have probably 20 years ago, because I'd have made that choice out of loneliness.
Right.
Now hopefully my next choice I'm making out of love. And hopefully I've learned and I'm working on myself, and that's what happens. So I just wanted to leave that out there on a positive note. This has been the beginning of the Black Love series. This is Black Westchester presents the People Before Politics radio show. We are on every Sunday night from 6 to 8. We stream live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn most of the time. There's been a problem with the LinkedIn connection, but those are the three that we do. And you can always go back on blackwestchester.com to see the shows you missed, or on our YouTube channel to see the shows you missed. I want to thank everyone. Kathy Bruin, the new president of the Mount Vernon NAACP, Brenda L. Crump, who is the mistress of information and has always been. She's always given us the information. We talk about something. Like I said, I talked about the book. She used to do this when we was in the other show. She'll put it up and tell you who wrote it and everything. So I know what I'm talking about. She does that for us, and she's been doing that for like going on 9 years. Kenyetta Adams, thank you for tuning in. Brooke Jones, Ken Bright, my brother, Kenneth Chamberlain. There was quite a few others. Those are the names I saw the most. Hector Santiago tuned in for a second. Anybody else that I'd missed, thank you. You could be doing anything else, but you decided to ride with us, and we greatly appreciate it. Until next week, peace.
Thank you. Good night. Good night. Peace, everyone.
Later.
Hit
the outro, AJ.
22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.